Recite this ancient psalm to clear financial blockages instantly. It was a Wednesday morning in early spring, and a woman sat in my study holding a piece of paper she had been clutching since before sunrise. She had driven 40 minutes to get to me. She had not slept. The paper was a final notice, not the first final notice, but the one that arrives after the first one has been ignored because there was simply nothing to do about it. She was not a careless person. She was not a person who had made obvious mistakes. She was a person who had been working at the same ceiling for so long that she had begun to believe the ceiling was the sky. She placed the paper on my desk and looked at me and said, "I have prayed. I have tried. I do not know what else there is." And I said to her what I am going to say to you today. There is one more thing, and it is the oldest thing. It has been sitting in our tradition for 3,000 years, waiting to be used with the precision it was designed for. Most people have read it. Almost no one has applied it correctly. And the difference between reading it and applying it correctly is the difference between looking at a key and opening a door. My name is Rabbi Naomi. I have studied the Psalms as practical financial instruments, not as poetry, not as liturgy alone, but as functional spiritual technology for over 30 years. My teacher in this specific discipline was a woman, a scholar of Kabbalah and traditional Jewish healing practice, who had received this lineage from her own teacher in Jerusalem in the 1970s. The teaching I am going to share with you today was not in any book she gave me. It was spoken, privately, during a walk in a garden on a Tuesday afternoon in autumn, because certain knowledge is only transmitted in that way, person to person, voice to ear, when the receiver has demonstrated they are ready to hold it with the seriousness it requires. I am transmitting it to you now, because the times we are living in are calling for this knowledge to be released more widely. But the seriousness it requires, that has not changed. If you intend to approach what I am about to share casually, this video will not serve you. If you are willing to come to it with full intention, what you are about to receive has the potential to shift something in your financial life that nothing else has been able to move. Before we go one step further, I need you to go to the comments and type the words, "I am open," right now, before you continue watching. 2 words. In the Kabbalistic tradition, the declaration of openness is not a formality. It is a preparation of the vessel. You are not announcing your readiness to an audience. You are signaling to the deepest layer of yourself that you are choosing to receive. That signal creates a specific internal condition that makes the teaching more effective. Do not skip it. Do it now, and then come back. You must stay with me until the very end of this video. What I am going to share has 4 components, and they function as a single unit: the psalm, the preparation practice, the specific method of recitation, and the period of holding that follows. None of these 4 is optional. I have seen people take the psalm alone, recite it casually without the preparation and without the method, and experience nothing. I have also seen people apply all 4 components with full sincerity and experience a shift in their financial reality within a specific and sometimes dramatic time frame. The difference is not the words. The words are the same. The difference is everything around the words. That is what I am going to teach you. Let me tell you what happened to the woman who sat in my study that Wednesday morning. Her name, for the purposes of this telling, is Leah. She was 49 years old, a former teacher who had spent 6 years building a small consulting practice from scratch. The practice had never broken through a particular income threshold, no matter what she did. New clients would arrive, but old ones would leave at almost precisely the same rate, as though an invisible force was maintaining a balance she had not chosen and could not override. She had engaged business coaches, changed her pricing, redesigned her services. The ceiling held. When I looked at her situation through the lens of the tradition, what I saw was not a business problem. It was a blockage in the spiritual dimension of her financial life, what the Kabbalistic teachers call a tzimtzum shebeparnasah, a constriction in the channel of livelihood. The word tzimtzum, in its primary meaning, refers to the contraction of divine light to create space for the world. In its secondary practical meaning, it refers to any place in a person's life where the flow of provision has been interrupted or narrowed by a spiritual obstruction. The obstruction is almost never visible at the material level. That is why material solutions do not resolve it. You cannot fix a spiritual blockage with a business strategy. You need a spiritual instrument. And the instrument that the tradition specifically designated for the clearing of financial blockage is Psalm 112. I am going to give you Psalm 112 in a moment, but first I need to explain what it is, because understanding what it is changes everything about how it works. The Psalms were not written as comfort literature. They were written by a king who understood, through direct and often brutal experience, that reality has layers, that the physical world is the outermost layer, and that beneath it there are spiritual structures that determine what the physical world can and cannot produce. King David wrote with the knowledge of someone who had been at the absolute bottom and the absolute summit of material experience, and who understood that neither position was determined by material forces alone. Psalm 112 specifically addresses the character and the conditions of a person for whom blessing flows freely. It is not a petition. It is not a request. It is a declaration, an alignment document. When you recite it correctly, you are not asking for prosperity. You are declaring yourself to be the kind of vessel through which prosperity naturally moves. This is the distinction that changes everything. Asking creates a supplicant. Declaring creates an alignment. And the spiritual law that governs financial flow responds to alignment in a way that it does not respond to petition. Now I will give you the 4 components of the practice. Apply them in sequence. Do not rearrange them. Do not abbreviate them. The sequence is the technology. The first component is the preparation of the body and the space. The tradition is specific about this. You do not recite Psalm 112 in a casual setting, in passing, without having prepared yourself and your environment. Before the recitation, you wash your hands, both hands, completely with intention, in the traditional Jewish manner of netilat yadayim, pouring water over each hand 3 times. The washing is not hygiene. It is a ritual separation between the ordinary state you are in and the heightened state you are entering. After the washing, you sit, not stand, not lie down, but sit, in a place in your home that you associate with seriousness and intention. If possible, this should be the same place each time you perform this practice, because location accumulates the intention of repeated use and becomes progressively more powerful as a container. You sit quietly for 3 minutes before you speak a single word. 3 minutes of silence in which you bring to your mind the specific financial blockage you are addressing, not vaguely, specifically. Name the blockage to yourself in precise terms, not, I need more money, but the channel of new client income has been constricted for 8 months, and I am addressing that constriction now. Precision in the naming of the obstruction is the first act of clearing it. A blockage you cannot name specifically, you cannot address specifically. The 3 minutes of silence is the naming practice. Do not rush it. The second component is the recitation itself. Psalm 112 in Hebrew begins with the word Hallelujah, and this word is not translated adequately as praise the Lord. Its root, Hallel, means to radiate, to shine outward, to project light. The word is not a passive expression. It is an active declaration of the condition you are entering. You are announcing that you are becoming a radiating source rather than a receiving vessel only. And that shift from passive to active is itself a financial spiritual principle of enormous importance. The full psalm is 10 verses. I am going to give you the practice for all 10, and I need you to understand that each verse addresses a different dimension of the financial blockage. Verse 1 addresses the foundational orientation, fear of the divine expressed as reverence for the ordering principle of reality. Verse 2 addresses generational continuity, the teaching that how you move through your financial life determines what your children inherit in terms of financial energy, not only material wealth. Verse 3 addresses the dwelling of wealth, the teaching that wealth is not a destination you arrive at, but a quality of environment you create and maintain. Verse 4 addresses the nature of the generous person in darkness, the one who shines for others even in their own difficult period, and the specific spiritual law by which that shining draws light back toward them. Verse 5 addresses the practice of gracious lending and fair judgment, the relational quality that the tradition specifically connects to the maintenance of financial stability. Verse 6 addresses permanence, the declaration that the righteous are not moved, that a life built on correct spiritual financial practice does not collapse under ordinary pressure. Verse 7 addresses the quality of the heart in the face of bad news, the teaching that internal steadiness in the face of financial fear is itself a form of financial power, because fear contracts the channel of provision and steadiness keeps it open. Verse 8 addresses the supported heart, the condition of having done the inner work so thoroughly that external threats lose their power to destabilize. Verse 9 addresses the act of dispersal, giving to the poor, and connects it directly to the raising of what the Hebrew calls the keren, the horn, the visible symbol of honor and prosperity in the world. And verse 10 addresses the reaction of the one who does not follow this path, the wasting away of the one who watches another's prosperity and feels only envy. And it is included not as cruelty, but as a mirror, asking you to examine whether any part of your own relationship to other people's prosperity has been characterized by that wasting envy, and to release it completely. You recite all 10 verses aloud, not whispered, not silent, aloud with the full sound of your voice in whatever language you have access to, Hebrew if you carry it, your mother tongue if you do not. What matters is that the words move through your body and into the air of the room. The voice is a physical instrument that vibrates the space around you, and the tradition teaches that the vibration of these specific words, in this specific sequence, produces a spiritual resonance that begins to loosen the constriction in the channel of your livelihood. Recite slowly, one verse at a time. After each verse, pause for the length of one full breath before moving to the next. Do not rush. Do not perform. Speak as though you are speaking directly to the layer of reality that holds your financial life in its current shape, and you are informing it that you are now aligned with a different configuration. The third component is the period of holding. After the final verse, you remain sitting in silence for 7 minutes. Not 5, not approximately 7. 7. During these 7 minutes, you hold a single image in your mind, not a fantasy, not a wish, but a scene of your ordinary life in which the specific blockage has been resolved. The scene must be ordinary, not dramatic, not the moment of a windfall or a celebration. A quiet Tuesday morning in which you look at your bank balance and feel the particular quality of ease that comes from financial sufficiency. The ordinariness of the image is important. The tradition teaches that prosperity integrated into an ordinary life is more powerful as a spiritual target than prosperity imagined as an event. You are not imagining receiving, you are imagining having received and the life that follows being simply, quietly, sustainably different. Hold that image for the full 7 minutes. If your mind wanders, and it will, return to it without judgment. The returning is part of the practice. The fourth component is the follow-through action. This is the element that most people who attempt this practice without proper teaching omit entirely, and its omission is why they experience no result. The tradition is unequivocal on this point. Spiritual practice without material action is incomplete. The psalm opens the channel. The action gives the provision something to flow through. Immediately after the 7 minutes of holding, not later that day, not the next day, but within the hour, you take one specific action in the physical world in the direction of the blockage you addressed. One email sent, one call made, one application submitted, one conversation initiated, one financial account reviewed and updated. The action does not need to be large. The tradition does not ask for grand gestures. It asks for a single, sincere physical movement in the direction you declared. Because the combination of the spiritual opening and the physical action creates what the teachers called a tsinor, a pipe, a conduit, through which provision can move from the spiritual dimension into the material one. Without the physical action, the pipe has no outlet. The provision that was freed by the recitation has nowhere to arrive. With the action, even a small one, you have created the pathway. And what I have seen people experience when they apply all four components together, the preparation, the recitation, the holding, and the follow-through action, is a shift that typically becomes visible within 2 to 3 weeks. Not always in the form expected. Sometimes it arrives laterally, through a relationship, through an unexpected recovery of something lost, through an opportunity that appears from a direction that was not being watched. The provision does not always come through the door you are facing, but it comes. Now I want to speak to the part of you that is holding a question about all of this. The part that has been trained by a rationalist culture to be skeptical of any claim that a spiritual practice can affect a material result. I want to speak to that part with respect, not dismissal. The tradition I come from does not ask for faith that bypasses reason. It asks for the willingness to test. The teachers of the Talmud were among the most rigorous intellectual minds in human history, and they applied that rigor to the testing of spiritual principles rather than to their dismissal. What they found, consistently, across centuries and across vastly different material conditions, is that these practices produce observable results when applied correctly. I am not asking you to believe that before you begin. I am asking you to apply the practice with full sincerity for 21 consecutive days. The minimum cycle the tradition identifies for a spiritual practice to produce measurable results, and then to evaluate what you observe. 21 days, the same preparation, the same recitation, the same holding, the same follow-through action, every single day for 21 days. If you do this and observe nothing, you have lost 21 mornings of approximately 15 minutes each. If you do this and observe what I have watched people observe across 3 decades of transmitting this practice, you will have changed something in your financial life that was not going to change by any other means available to you. For those of you who want the complete practice packet, the full Hebrew and transliterated text of Psalm 112, with the specific cantillation guidance the tradition recommends for this use, the written preparation protocol, the 7-minute visualization guide, and the 21-day tracking journal that allows you to record the specific shifts you observe across the full cycle, I have compiled all of this into a single resource that is linked in the description below this video. It is everything you need to apply this practice exactly as it was transmitted to me, without having to reconstruct it from a video. If this teaching reached you today, that resource is how you take it into your daily life with the full architecture intact. Before the blessing, 3 things. First, go to the comments right now and tell me this. What is the specific financial blockage you are bringing to this practice? Not the general situation, the specific constriction. Name it in the comments. The act of naming it publicly, as I said at the beginning of this video, is itself a form of clearing. And reading the comments of this community, watching people name what they are carrying and commit to addressing it, is one of the most powerful things that happens in this space. I read every one. Second, if you are not subscribed to this channel, the button is below this video. What I release here is drawn from a living lineage that is not available in any other format I know of. Subscribe so that every teaching reaches you as it is released. Third, if someone came to your mind while you were watching this video, someone who has been carrying a financial blockage for longer than they should have to, press the like button before you leave this page. Your single action tells the platform to put this teaching in front of the people who are silently looking for exactly this. You become the one who found it and made sure others could find it too. That is an act of tzedakah in the fullest sense of that word. May the channel of your livelihood be cleared of everything that has been obstructing it. May the words of the ancient king reach the layer of your life that your own hands cannot touch. May what shifts in the next 21 days be the beginning of a new chapter in the story of your financial life, a chapter that you will one day tell someone else, the way I am telling you now, in a room where the teaching passes from voice to ear and changes everything. Shalom.